make sure that it's being recorded. Okay. As a matter of fact, it's not uncommon for a buyer, a person that buys materials, to have millions of dollars in annual accounts per year. So usually there's three ranks of buyers. There's a buyer one, a buyer two, and a buyer three. The higher the number, the more experience you've had, the more responsibility you have. And it's not uncommon, say, for a buyer one to have $20 million of an account, which means, or $20 million in accounts, means how much money the company spends on that supplier on individual raw materials. So a buyer three, gosh, when I last worked at Bell Labs, buyer threes had about $200 to $300 million in accounts, which is a lot of money when you think about it, because how much do you make when a company, right? So you're responsible for buying components that are going to be used in making finished goods for your company to sell to customers or services, one or the other. The nice thing is, if you like shopping, this is a great job for you. So if you like not necessarily just shopping to buy stuff, but the actual act of shopping, looking around and haggling for prices and trying to figure out what's the best deal to get, this is a job that not a lot of students know about. So when you're talking about purchasing or procurement, salespeople they sell to you. So they'll try to win your trust, they'll try to win your satisfaction, your loyalty. So it's not uncommon when I worked as a quality engineer supporting a buyer that the supplier representatives and the supplier salespeople would try to give us stuff. Like we'd be going to getting pens or getting folders or getting, electronic devices. I remember getting thumb drives when thumb drives were a thing. I remember being offered to go to a Yankees game because I lived in New Jersey. Just in the afternoon, I went out to a few restaurants. Hey, let's get together. How about Cheesecake Factory? That sounds good. I've got my team that wants to join us. There'll be 15 of us total at the table. Would you be interested in going? And it was hard to say no because first it's a free lunch, and some place like Cheesecake Factory is pretty good. But additionally, like you guys just sit and just get to know other people who are potentially selling products to your company. So there's a lot of schmoozing that goes on when it comes to procurement, which is pretty wonderful. And it's also fun that they're always trying to win your attention. So if you like shopping, this would be something that's really fun. If you like a activity or you like a company and were to work for that company as a buyer, this could be really fun. So for example, let's say you work for a sports shop, right? And Callaway comes in with golf clubs. Hey, do you want to try out one of our golf clubs? You can have it. Just try it, see what you think. And then all we ask is that you give us feedback. So free stuff is usually a big part of this, although probably less now than it was 10 years ago. So just know that there's this job out there called supply management or procurement. And it's something that's important to every company, and it can be really fun. But I will warn you, though, that's also high stress. Okay, so there's a bit of a high stress factor to it. As you can see on the screen, supply risk is part of the biggest issue. It's a probability of an unplanned event that negatively impacts the firm. So the biggest two are the first and the third ones. Delays and disruptions. So asking for a product Wednesday, and not getting it. I thought we were getting it on Wednesday afternoon. Well, it looks like we're going to get it Thursday morning instead. How does that affect you transforming the product for your finished goods? How does that affect customer sales or delivering to, say, a Kroger or a Meijer or wherever you're going to sell your product at, or offering your service? So let's say it's a toothpaste and toothbrush for a dentist's office, right? Some patients won't get that now because you didn't get it in on time. Or disruptions. You're not going to get it at all. I just was working with a company last week that had a problem because they had two containers literally fall off their boat from China, and some of the product was in those containers. And well, there's water damage, and we don't know where it is, etc. Well, how are you going to satisfy your customers when they're asking for the product? Well, right now we'll just have to have stockouts, nothing available. But that's a loss of revenue. So disruptions are a big deal too. It could be regulatory disruptions. So if you remember about 5 years ago, there were container ships that were off of California's port that couldn't get in because the ports were on strike. I mean, that's a challenge. It's a disruption. Or it could be an earthquake. It could be a natural disaster, hurricanes in the south. UPS has already issued warnings, and FedEx has as well, saying you might not get your product when you ask for it or when it's being expected to be delivered because there's Hurricane Delta right now that we're having to deal with at the end of the week. So thefts of intellectual property. Sometimes things get stolen. Sometimes ideas get stolen and sold. right? So that's supply risk. Price increases, another big one. So do I increase the price of my product and then pass that on to the customer? Or do I take something else out from somewhere else and maintain my price? But price increases are huge. And true to form, what happens if you have a supplier that you love, you enjoy working with? They're great delivery, they're nice people. I've worked with them for 16 years. I love working with them, and now they're increasing their prices. Well, do you still work with that company? Do you find an alternate competitor who has lower prices? Does it make, if it's the only company you've been working with, how long does it take to get another company involved? And say, well, hey, supplier A, I really appreciate working with you, but now I need to work with supplier B because you've been raising your prices. And then finally, product safety problems. And safety issues are a big concern because in the end, if you're selling the finished good that has inputs that have product safety issues, let's say phone components, chips inside phones that can potentially light on fire because they get so hot. Well, who are the customers going to blame? They're going to blame you because you provided the final product, the phone, right? They're not going to blame Analog Devices that has a component inside that can catch on fire, right? But you might want to blame Analog Devices. So product safety problems can influence your business. All these are risk. So we want to minimize our risk. That's kind of the goal that we're looking for when it comes to procurement. Another term we should be aware of is something called total cost of ownership, which is TCO. You may see this in some businesses, this term that's used, it's thrown around. It's the sum of costs incurred before, during, and after a purchase. So we often think about, especially when we go to the store, we think about the during costs. I see something on sale, it's $4.39. I buy it, it's for $4.39. And we think of, okay, that's going to be $4.39. I buy something else, it's $2, it's $2. And I add these totals together. Total cost of ownership is before and after the during part. In other words, it's not just the buying, it's not just the receiving the items, the delivery costs, but it's before. What suppliers are out there? Who's good to assess and select? Do I have to do a quality audit? Do I have to send people to that location? If they're manufacturing something in China or in Malaysia, do I have to go to those countries and actually physically see it, which can be really fun. But it's a lot of work too. So making sure that their components are compliant. I don't want to buy from a supplier that is pretty good for 1 month and then has wrong products for future months. So I mean, that's a potential challenge. And then after, economy of scale is great. So back to Econ 115, if I buy a lot of something, I can get a lower price for it. So instead of buying 10 t-shirts, if I buy 100 t-shirts or 1,000 t-shirts, that's great because I can lower my prices significantly. And now the question is, where do I put the t-shirts? If I use t-shirts are stackable, so I mean, it's probably not a big issue. But let's say light bulbs. If I buy light bulbs for lights that I'm selling to different companies, I buy 300,000 light bulbs. Where do I put them? Do I just put them in my garage? Can I stick them in my warehouse? Do I have room for them? And then the way usually warehouses charge money, even though it's internal money, is we're going to charge by square foot. So if I have a lot of light bulbs covering a square footage area, how much money am I spending, quote unquote, for having those light bulbs there? It could be used by something else, like a finished good that I can sell. So, I mean, all of this goes into this idea of TCO. There's a lot more cost than just buying the product. So know what TCO is. And then usually when we buy components, we buy based on quality and technology innovation. So when we look at different suppliers, what do they have coming out? What is good? What are they planning on doing in the next 6 months? What are they doing in the next 3 years? How good is the product quality? That's the big issue, right? So if it's not a good product quality, then we probably won't want to buy from them. Which brings us to our first math problem in our class. And this is called the make versus buy decision. There are two ways to sell products that are being transformed. One is insourcing, so we're going to do it ourselves. The second is outsourcing. You've probably heard that term before, and they're going to be made outside our company. And there's another term called offshoring, which is probably similar to outsourcing now, which is to capture the cost reductions. Let's buy it from a country that's not in our country. So let's buy it from the Philippines, let's buy it from Malaysia, let's buy it from Indonesia, Taiwan, or Korea, or China, or wherever. Right? So offshoring is another definition, but insourcing is making it internally, outsourcing is buying it from outside, and we have something called the make versus buy decision. And I realized as I went over this, I probably need to make another short video, not now, explaining or giving some more examples of this. So this will be our first math problem on our exams. Make versus buy decision asks, do we make it ourselves or do we just buy it from somebody else? And here's a really quick example. For those that are aware, for those that have had business marketing or have had accounting in the past, if you're a business student, you may have seen this, you may have had this in high school. Make versus buy really is, there's two costs. There's a fixed cost and a variable cost, right? You need to be mindful of both of those costs. This is how you do this problem. So our example, there's a company that we work for called Digital North, and we use 3D compasses that we sell to the big 3 automotive manufacturers. Imagine this is a compass that is digital and then shines up on the windshield. So when somebody is driving, they can just look at the right above the dash on the windshield and see, oh, this is I'm going northeast. Good. So in case I get lost, in case I don't have my GPS out, I kind of have an idea. Now, for us, if we buy the product and we outsource it, so we get it from somebody else, the cost is $4.27. But if we make it, here's a series of fixed and variable costs that are in the tables below. And our current demand changes from about $5,000 a month to about $7,500 a month. So it could increase up to $7,500, but usually it's about $5,000. So the question is, do we make it or do we buy it? And what we do, again, we be mindful very much of our fixed and our variable costs. Every cost in the table below is variable except for the equipment rental, which is the bottom of the second table. It's $15,000 a month. Now, if it's a fixed cost, that means if I make one compass or I make 10,000 compasses, I still have to pay the fixed cost because I need to rent the equipment. So the way you do this is you set it up. In the yellow box is every variable cost and the equipment lease, the fixed cost. And note on the on the right side, we have different quantities. One is 5,000 units, one is 7,500 units. And all we do is we just take that demand and we multiply it by each variable cost. So if you look at the make versus buy on the sheet metal, it says 22 cents per unit. So 5,000 times 22 cents is $1,100. 7,500 times 22 cents is $1,650, right? Paint is 10 cents per unit. 5,000 times 5,000 times 10 cents a unit is $500. 7,500 units times 10 cents per unit is $750. And we do this for all of our variable costs, and then we add them up. Notice at the bottom of the list is the fixed cost, the equipment, $15,000 a month. And no matter if I make one, 5,000 or 7,500, I still have to have that 15,000 in because it's a fixed cost. I have to include it as is, right? When I look at the quantity, it shows at the bottom that 25,250 is the total versus 3,375, and then I divide by the number of units, so 5,000 units or 7,500 units, and it shows that the cost per unit is $5.05. Well, that's more expensive than having it purchased, just outsourcing it. $4.27. So if it's 5,000 units, then it's a lot cheaper just to buy it from somebody else. But if it's 7,500 units, notice it's $4.05 per unit, which is cheaper than $4.27. So I'm actually saving money. So if I have the higher quantities, this is really the offset because of the equipment lease, that fixed cost. If I buy higher quantities, it's actually cheaper just to have somebody else make it cheaper to make it myself than to buy it from someone else. So now the question comes to you, well, if I have 6,000 units, should I make it or should I buy it? And then you can just do it again, 6,000 instead of 5,000 or 7,500 and see if it's cheaper or not. But do you see how this kind of it helps your decision? So on months where I have 5,000 units, I'm losing money. On months where I make 7,500 units, I'm gaining money, right? So based on that, should I make or buy it? And that's up to you. I mean, you have to look over, say, 12 months or 24 months of making this product, this compass. Is it good? Is it something that can save you money? Is it something, I mean, really, how much money are we saving? We're saving, what, 22 cents per unit? But over a period of 12 months, if I'm making 200,000, that saves a lot of money. And so you have to make that decision, that judgment call. If it's less than 5,000 units, you obviously should outsource it because it will always be more expensive. If it's closer to 7,500 units, it's probably better to make it yourself.
Go lay down.
So anyway, of all these things, this is the make versus buy decision. All right. Are there any questions on that? And like I said, I can create a short video with another example if you'd like, or I can offer a Word document that has another problem on it you can do on your own, just so you get some experience on make versus buy. But again, that that key to doing is understanding variable costs versus fixed costs. Okay. All right. So now we go to the strategic sourcing process. How do we actually do this as buyers? How do we know which suppliers should we go to? And I'm going to use, I apologize, I know it's in the mid-morning. Usually I have this class closer to lunchtime. So everybody understands food, hygiene products and food, right? So I'm going to use restaurants as our example. And there's 5 parts. So when we look at suppliers and we manage suppliers, the first part is analyze our spend and our markets. So what does that mean? Well, that means how much money am I spending normally? Like if I had to look at a year, how much money am I spending on a year? And in a market, like what am I spending it on? What am I buying? A second is developing the sourcing strategy. And that sourcing strategy is what's important to me? What are qualifications that I need to look at? Third is identify potential suppliers. So who's out there that can offer what I need? Fourth, so think of wants, right? So opportunities and needs, capabilities and execution. Who does a good job executing? Fourth is assess and select my suppliers. So look at my sourcing strategy, look at my potential suppliers, and then choose some. And then finally is manage the relationship, right? So how well does that relationship work? Is it something I'm comfortable with? Is it not? Should I go with a different company, etc.? So again, let's take restaurants. Let's say lunch. So the first question, the first box is analyze spend and markets. So how much money do you spend on lunch per month? $300, $400, $200? Are you a ramen noodles person? Right? How much do you spend on lunch per month? And where do you spend it? Like, where are your favorite places to go? Are you a McDonald's person? Are you a Taco Bell person? Are you a White Castle person? Do you prefer sitting down? So it's a meatwebs. So you go someplace like that, or you go prefer sandwiches to go. Is it Chick-fil-A? Are you a big Chick-fil-A person? Second one is develop the sourcing strategy. So if you had to sit back and think about lunch, what's important to you? Is cost important? Is closeness to campus important to where you live, or where you maybe closest if you're a commuter, closest to where your house? Does food quality matter? Does healthiness matter? Right? Does having a place that has a rewards program matter? So I can save money later. I think of my wife and her Starbucks star parts. So she gets 150 stars, she gets a free drink. That's very important to her. Right? So what's important to you? Now that we know what's important, step 3, identify potential suppliers. Now this is big. Think about all the places you can eat in Franklin, even beyond in Johnson County. Right? So you can go to a Wendy's, you can go to Arby's, you can go to a Captain D's or a Long John Silver's. Ever been to those places? You can go to a White Castle, you can go to a Meatwebs, you can go to a Giordano's, you can go to a Portillo's, you can go wherever you want, right? And if we had a whole list of say 50 different suppliers or 50 different restaurants, where would you go? What's important to you? Right, and what meets those. And then fourth, assess and select those suppliers. So what are the top 3 things that are important to you? Let's say food quality and variability are important. Let's say closeness to campus is important, and let's say price is important. Well, based on that, okay, so someplace in Franklin probably, food quality is pretty good, and cost is a big issue. So where would you choose? Is Chick-fil-A close enough? Isn't the closest one in Greenwood? And how about McDonald's? McDonald's food quality. I don't know. Some days it's good, some days it's not. Taco Bell, same thing, right? So what about some place that's sit down? Like, would that work? Can I go to a Twisted Sicilian, or does it make more sense to go somewhere else that's faster? Right. So I choose my suppliers. Let's say I choose 3 suppliers, 3 restaurants that I want to go to. Cheesecake Factory is wonderful, but it's not close and it's really quite expensive. So that's not going to work. And then finally, manage the relationship. How often do I go? How often do you shop at those restaurants? How often do you buy from them to go or in person? From a company perspective, if you're working as a buyer inside a company, let's say a Fortune 500 like Rolls-Royce, managing the relationship is talking to them regularly, seeing how they're doing, what's coming out, what problems are going to happen in the future, making sure you buy product from them. Right? Because that's important. They're going to maintain their business and their profit by you being a customer. And so having that relationship that's there is always big. So this is the strategic sourcing process. This is how we do buying, how we do purchasing. Let me go to one slide a little bit further down and highlight that, because that'll make this a little bit clearer. When we work with suppliers, there are 3 types. So this picture on the screen here has 4 with the boxes on the bottom. And it goes from transaction oriented to collaborative. So on the box on the far left, it says adversarial relationship. I don't like that term because it makes it sound like you're fighting somebody, adversarial. I like the term transaction relationship or transactional relationship. Really, this is a company you don't work with very often. Or, they sell products that are so cheap, then I don't really need to have a close relationship with them. There's a lot of companies out there that sell these products. Think hardware parts, or think automotive parts, think oil companies, right? If I buy motor oil or nuts and bolts, like there are lots of companies that offer that stuff and they're pretty inexpensive. So a transactional relationship is a company. I have a lot of these companies. I usually just focus on price. So if you look inside the box, one contract at a time. I don't have multiple. I don't deal with multiple products with them very often. Secretive, again, I don't like that term, that we're trying to hold secrets from our companies. But in other words, I don't really share my life story with them. The lowest price is really, that's all that matters. Sometimes I'll go on Amazon and look at competitors, see if they're cheaper, see what people are saying review wise. Multiple suppliers, so again, a lot of different competitors. Infrequent interaction, I'll buy from them once or twice a year. Buyer sales relationship, so meaning that we know our roles. There's a buyer and there's a salesperson, and we know each other, we interact a little bit, but I just buy a product from them once or twice a year. And then finally, inventory is a safeguard. If I think the price of nuts and bolts are going to go up, then instead of buying 150,000, I'll buy 300,000 for the year, and I'll lock in this lower price. And so I've got extra inventory in case I need it. And you know what? If the price does go up, well, thank goodness I bought it when it was cheaper. I have extra inventory. I can use it. Now, again, where do you stick that inventory from a TCO perspective? That's a question, right? But transactional is just, I deal with this company, I buy from them. You have transactional relationships when you go to a Meijer or a Kroger or a Walmart, right? You don't worry about the company that this, Frito-Lay makes Doritos. Like, I don't worry about Frito-Lay. I just like Doritos. I'm just going to buy a bag of it, or Coca-Cola, or wherever, Aunt Millie's bread, right? I don't really think about it. It's $4.29, or it's $2.18 or whatever, and I just buy it and that's it, right? On the other side, on the right side, in the right box, is something called full partnership. We don't have many of these companies. This is, I work with them regularly. I talk with them regularly. I trust them. It's a total cost of ownership perspective. It's not just the final price. It's continuous improvement, that Kaizen.
Probably sick.
So continuous improvement, how do they get better? How do we get better? We talk all the time. We don't have a lot of these companies. We promise a lot of business to these companies, right? So we're one of their favorite customers and they're one of our favorite suppliers. Frequent interaction, cross-functional relationship. It's more than just a buyer and a seller relationship. Like, I can help you with this. I can help you talk to these people. I'll have you talk to design engineering about your parts, etc. Information as a safeguard. It's not inventory. It's information. Right? Hey, what's going to be happening in the next few months? What's going to happen next week? Where do you see the company going? What's your next innovation? What are you going to make? Right? New technology. So, and how are you involved in that? Can we get involved in that? So on one side, I've got transactional relationships, which are pretty formal. And then on the full partnership, there's really close relationships with these suppliers. And then in the middle, I've got this one called arm's length. So I'm not going to do acceptance of mutual goals. I think it's just easier just to have one in the middle called arm's length. And why is it called arm's length? Because usually they're a new company that I want to be a full partner, but I need to test them. Not yet. So if you can imagine stiff arming somebody in football, right? Just stay back a little bit. I definitely am interested, but I'm not totally sold yet. So I want to make sure that you are a good company before I buy from you. Or I'm going to buy a couple products from you this one time, but let's see how well it goes. And if it's really good, I have product on time, it's pretty cheap, then I may use you as a full partner. At the same time, it could be a full partner that's really messed up. So they've got delays and delivery issues. They're raising their prices. I have bad experiences with the new quality or customer service person. You know what? I really don't like this company anymore. Before they become transactional, let's just put them at arm's length. I'm going to give you a chance to fix it. And then if you fix it, you'll go back to full partnership. And if you don't, we're going to get rid of you. So the arm's length relationship that's in the middle. Right. So there's really three types of companies. One is transactional, one is arm's length, and one is full partnership. And that's usually what you'll see in companies. They have these different types of relationships with companies that they work with. So this brings up an interesting question, which is if I'm buying a product, let's say light bulbs for lamps. Let's say I'm like Indiana Lighting Company and I'm selling lamps to people and I need to buy light bulbs to go with them. How many light bulb suppliers should I have? And the answer to that question is, well, how many do you think is appropriate? There's no golden number. There's not 1 or 3 or 5 or 15. It's whatever you think is appropriate. It probably is a single digit number, right? So it's probably 9 or less. But it depends on the companies, because some companies will treat you well. Some companies are more transactional and really don't care. You're just another customer. Some people just are not good at playing business. Some people don't lower their costs. Some people choose not to. Some people just are bad service people, and others are great. And so when it comes to supply-based optimization, is this, how many suppliers should I have for each component? That's up to you, right? I would recommend having more than one. You can probably understand why. If you have one supplier for a component making light bulbs, then the problem is if they raise their prices, what do you do? If they go out of business, what do you do? If they can't deliver on time, what do you do? And that's part of the challenge is if I have what's called a sole supplier or sole source situation, I don't know what to do if there's a hiccup or a disruption, right? A great example was in 2011, I think. There was a typhoon that hit Japan, hit Tokyo or outside Tokyo. And you may have remembered something called the Fukushima reactor. That was a nuclear power plant that almost overloaded, almost exploded and caused problems because of the typhoon. With that was a company called Visteon. Visteon makes components for automotive manufacturer engines. And Visteon's main location was in Japan. Well, the factory was destroyed. And so it would take about 6 to 9 months to get back up and running again. So what is General Motors or what is Ford or what is Chrysler? What do they do for these components while they're waiting 9 months for the factory to be up and running again? Right? They were in a sole source situation. So now you have to scramble to get other sources in, test them, see whether the parts fit into your engines, make sure that they always are getting quality components. And if you're not set up for that, that takes a few months right there. So, I mean, there's that challenge of having too many or a few suppliers. So it's whatever's right for that product. Too few increased shortage and price risks. Innovation can be limited. In other words, I don't really have one key supplier I work with, but concerning innovation, I've got, so they could be good, but they could be, yeah. So, for example, if I am only working with 2 different companies, they both have innovation ideas, and those are good. But how much better if I had 15? Right? How much more diverse thinking would I have? Too many companies increases complexity and makes supply chain management or supply management difficult. So if I'm one buyer and I'm working with 15 different companies on one product, I'm constantly hopping from one company to another. And by the way, I want to promise some companies business if I like them. And if I have 15, it might be too many. Some companies can come back and say, you know what, you said you were going to work with us. You said you were going to sell us product. We haven't, or buy product from us. We have not gotten a contract from you in 6 months. What's going on? And so you want to just pick the right amount for each component. So supply-based optimization, what makes the most sense? Finally, I want to talk about sourcing strategies, which is centralized versus regional purchasing. Centralized is one location does all the purchasing requirements, right? So capabilities and location are important. Centralized is I'm buying from one location. So let's say my company, Ford does this, Ford Motor Company. They have a location in Dearborn, Michigan. And so all their purchases, all their buyers will purchase product from Dearborn, Michigan. Then there's benefits and cons to that, right? Regional purchasing is that different factories or facilities that are all over the world, they do their own purchasing, right? And you can see some pros and cons to that. Again, consideration trade barriers and incentives, like well, what companies will work for us or what countries are easy to buy from. Global presence can impact access to markets. So regional knowledge that people know about that centralized doesn't. Proximity impacts ease of communication, transportation costs, and community perceptions. So where you are makes a big difference. In other words, if you buy American, people in Michigan will notice that, right? Or if you're proximity as far as going to talk to a neighbor, I've got two people in two different offices that are in the same building. They can just meet each other at lunch and talk about this company. Well, what do you think about this supplier? Are they good? Are they good to work with? What kind of price increases have you had? What kind of problems have you had with them? And so centralized and purchasing and regional purchasing are different, but they both have pros and cons. And so here you go. On the left side is central, on the right is regional. On the left side, central is economy of scale. Let's say 15 different factories for automotives, right? Let's say they have 15 different factories and they all need the same part. They all need the same type of piston for the engines, right? So economy of scale, I can just take all those orders from different factories and put them together. And I just buy one bulk. And then when I buy in bulk, usually economy of scale lowers the price. So I save money. Conformity, if I have one person buying engine parts, it's the same standards, regardless of where they're from. I have the same conformance that I need for each individual component from different facilities. So I can say to one company, I love your components. I can say to another company, you need to be a little bit better. And I know that because I work with both companies. Easier to maintain the relationship. There's only one point of contact inside the company. So if Ford is buying automotive components, let's say they're buying headlights, I'm the headlight person, right? So I buy only headlights for companies and I know what's a good headlight. I become the expert. And then finally, other buyers are nearby. So if I'm a headlight person and I need to talk to a taillight person, I can go find them. I can go talk to them in the same building. Now, regional purchasing is a little bit different. Regional, again, the individual factories or locations buy the components. So you don't get the economy of scale. You may not have the conformity. Different locations have different standards. You don't have one point of contact because each facility has their own contact points, right? But the nice thing here is regional, you have more contacts for the supplier. So the supplier wants to talk to somebody, they can talk to 5 different people at different factories or different facilities. Second, more local knowledge, customs, customers, and laws. Maybe there's a supplier in Australia you don't know about, but you have an Australian branch or location. And so they know about new technologies. They know about new innovations. It's cheaper there. And so can you push that information out to other factories? That's great, right? Local needs. So the number of shifts I have, my individual schedules, the centralized buyer doesn't know that. They don't know when the product is needed. They may have a date, but they don't know what time. And they don't know how many people are needed to put the headlights into the cars. They don't need to know that it has to have a certain aesthetics or certain beauty. If you've ever driven on the road at night, sometimes you get headlights that have cars coming toward you that are normal. And then you got those Sylvania ones that are like a bluish color that are really bright. Do you need that? Is that a specialty item that's needed for that specific location? And you don't know that, but if you're regional, you would know that. And finally, a local supply base, new or random small suppliers. So again, new companies in that area. So all these are the differences between centralized and regionalized purchasing. And best form is up to you. So is it better to be central like Ford? Is it better to be regional more like Frito-Lay? I don't know, right? So it's up to different or maybe Starbucks, right? So Starbucks buyers, each individual location has a buyer that will buy stuff. Now, granted, they buy a lot of stuff from the Starbucks branch or Starbucks distribution center, but still they have different needs. They have different wants. And so of all of these, which kind of structure do you have? I don't know. Again, it's up to you, whatever makes the most sense. All right. It is 33 minutes past. I'm going to stop the video right here.